The Reality of Being, Chapter 4, Summary. Let us go over the core points of Reality of Being, Chapter 4, and we will go in depth on each one. Let us begin. What do I understand today, and what do I need to understand? Understanding depends on my state of being, on my state of presence. It is absurd to pretend in my sleep that I wish to work, while all the time dreaming that I can. Our efforts to work in life are, first of all, to discover how far we are from our highest possibilities. At the center of our work is the wish to live in a more real way. My lie is affirming myself without having the taste of truth, the taste of reality. We can be either an unconscious slave or a conscious servant. Let's go over the first point, which is, what do I understand today, and what do I need to understand? Understanding is based on conscious impressions and also depends on our state of presence. What we need to observe and pay attention to is how in a moment our state of being can change and our level of consciousness can diminish, and ultimately we're taken by sleep. In that moment, understanding is lost. We get taken by associative thinking and automatic feeling. We need to see and we need to know this tendency and this pattern to fall asleep. And this is a tendency and pattern that involves absence of the true self. So we need to know ourselves. We need to feel ourselves and ultimately see ourselves. And this leads to the next point, which is understanding depends on my state of being, on my state of presence. We do not give enough importance to the moment of awaking, which happens when we see ourselves in sleep and in identification. To truly work on one's presence, we have to see how we are subject to identification of laws of this world, but we don't even recognize it. And we're usually taken by the different patterns, scenarios that exist in the external world. So we cannot escape and wake up to the higher reality in ourselves when we are constantly taken by this, and our presence cannot be developed unless there is moments where we can work in the quiet in conditions that are free from the demands of outer life. To understand our presence, we must know that I exist and that I know I exist and I can exist, I wish to exist, and that nothing else matters, and that everything external rises and falls, appears and disappears. Yet behind all of these movements that are external and even sometimes internal when it comes to the thoughts, emotions, there's something very still that remains and that's unchanging, and we must become conscious of it. And this is where true concentration is developed. When I go into the quiet, I can begin to separate myself from the multitude of thoughts and focus on the singular question, who am I? And when we do this, we can begin to attune to the vibrations of that question, remaining indifferent from all else that is out there, that is externally occurring within the realm of thought, emotion. We can begin to learn to detach from the external world and cling to the idea of becoming conscious of ourselves. And this is where we develop a single-pointed concentration on this question. The idea of concentrating on oneself and one's presence is of the utmost importance. This leads to the next point, which is, it is absurd to pretend in my sleep that I wish to work, while all the time dreaming that I can. In doing an exercise like asking ourselves, who am I, and paying attention to the vibrations that appear, we must first ask why we're even doing this in the first place and why we want to do this. Otherwise, we will be passive in our exercise. Another exercise we can undertake as well is playing with having a relaxed body and allowing presence to establish this order as we begin to relax the sensations and the muscles. And we've come to realize how we need to have a relaxed body for any part of the work to be done on oneself. We have to be able to work with all aspects of ourselves, and when we begin to notice how we work with one part of ourselves, it creates weakness or imbalance or deception. An example of this is when we begin to relax too much or in a general way. This leads to weakness or a passivity that has no real value to it. And so as we're relaxing, we can begin to engage the headspace, which will give more of a whole aspect to our practice here of relaxation, where the headspace is the watchful or vigilant part. and the body can remain open to sensations and feelings as they pass through, giving clear sight and a grounded sense of being. And this leads to the next point, which is our efforts to work in life are, first of all, to discover how far we are from our highest possibilities. As we begin to open up to a higher presence, we begin to receive the energies that are from above, that come from these energies of a higher level. But all the time do we fall back into our ordinary thinking and feelings, and we no longer are subject to those higher energies, and we see that we fall subject to our lower reactions and are identified and lost in our subjective feeling. At that moment, we begin to forget the higher possibilities, and they become very, very far from ourselves. And we no longer obey and subject ourselves to these higher realities, and we become lost. And so if we continue to believe that we are free in this state that we are in now, we won't make the necessary effort. We won't make the necessary effort to free ourselves. We have to see that we are a machine and functioning mechanically based off of automatic thinking and functions. Our aim should be to experience being mechanical and never forget it. And this leads to the next point, which is at the center of our work is the wish to live in a more real way. And so when we begin this pursuit, we find that all the while there is just resistance, which makes us lie and which makes us turn away from living in a real way. And so we cannot hold on to a lie and the truth at the same time. We have to know what we are, and we have to make room to give up the lie and to introduce the truth within the innermost parts of our being. And so the struggle is to continuously put in the effort to free ourselves from the lies and to find again what is true at the center of our work. And we do this by becoming free from words and images and emotions so that we can turn towards a sensation of a more subtle but higher energy. And to receive this energy, we must be present with all of our centers ready to receive this. And this leads to the next point, which is my lie is affirming myself without having the taste of the truth, the taste of reality. And so the struggle is a constant effort to be free of the lies and find again what is true at the center of what we are doing. And for this, we need a point to reference. And there has to be a certain feeling that is there and that's always the same. We do this through the conscious realization of there being two worlds and that we are in the middle, that there is a higher world and then there's a lower world, and that our attention is entirely mobilized in two directions at the same time and needs to be active in order to not allow ourselves to get carried away in one direction or the other. We see the fluctuations of our being, and then this shows us the road that we are traveling. And so there needs to be moments where we go into the quiet and work in the quiet, and then measure our work into the external world. And sometimes we realize that our effort is weak as we go into the world. And so we need to connect back into the moments of quiet in order to begin to make conscious decisions, which leads to the next point, which is we can either be an unconscious slave or a conscious servant. We need to be able to resist our mechanicalness. And we do this by seeing the machine or seeing our mechanicalness. And we have to ask, where are we when we're not present? We need to see how we easily submit to suggestions, or we like to obey and be cowardly. And we don't even understand what it means to free ourselves. And we never thought to have a sense of independence that is to be found in the struggle to know our own slavery. We have to have a wish to struggle that is strong enough. And when we begin, we want to withdraw just enough to be able to struggle, to stay present. Sometimes, though, we forget our wish and prefer to withdraw completely. And if we understand that our only possibility to be present is in struggle, we would not seek to situate ourselves outside of it or avoid it through complete withdrawal and escaping identification. Seeing identification is connected to the struggle, and it would be a part of the struggle. So conscious effort does not mean staying in one place without changing. It means continuing the effort in this struggle. Permanence can only be found in the movements that we take towards the struggle. We're not seeking something static, but the power of a mobile attention, a conscious attention that can flow from the entire movement of manifestation, no matter the circumstance. And so thank you for listening to The Reality of Being, Chapter 4 Summary, and we will see you on the next one.